We acknowledge that the Burbs podcast is taking place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them, along with the waters and all that is above and below. Welcome back to the Burbs podcast. On today's episode, we have Zaena, and we are at Lafarge Station at Pine Tree and Guildford in Coquitlam, BC. It is a very busy intersection. It is almost rush hour. Zaena, why are we here? What does this space mean to you?
Okay, well, primarily we're here because the Lafarge Frog is here, and
Is that its official name?
I don't think so, but that's what I've always thought of it as. Yeah, I've always thought of this place as kind of like the heart of the downtown Coquitlam area. It's right across from City Hall. This SkyTrain station that was built a couple years ago, which is really important for connecting us to the rest of Vancouver. The library, both Henderson Mall and the main Coquitlam Centre Mall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love this station.
Huh. I've never thought of Coquitlam to have a downtown, but I guess this makes sense. Like, this is like the main intersection. Or like these lights. I was talking to another podcast episode, and when they were talking about what they envisioned when they thought Coquitlam was coming off of the highway, and right in front of that fast food chain with like the other glowing stick.
Yeah.
And like this is like sort of an extension of that. But yeah, like that. Like, what do you envision when you think of Coquitlam?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in this part of Coquitlam for a while now. I guess this is the part that's like bordering Port Coquitlam. So it's really not the center of Coquitlam at all. It's like on one far end of Coquitlam. But I guess this space, and then also the Millardville area where I grew up for the first like 12, 14 years of my life. And both of them are like right beside a highway. But somehow are like filled with all these amenities that were important for social third spaces. So I guess that's what really pops into mind. Yeah.
Okay. What were your like third spaces growing up?
Definitely the library. There's the main branch library here, right by Lafarge, and then there's also another library, Poirier Library. And both of those were really, key growing up.
Would you still consider those your third spaces?
No.
Do you have any third spaces now?
Just the horrendous online world.
Okay.
If that counts.
Yeah. It is interesting because that's also what another person on my podcast said. Was like actually Henderson was their third space.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like just being in the food court. And that's just like where they would go after school.
Yeah.
And like you could rely on them being there.
Yeah.
With their friends or whatever. And to me, it's more interesting too that like that only exists for our teens. And like once you surpass a certain age, like that is no longer a third space for us.
Yeah. I mean, you said third spaces, and in my mind, I'm like thinking childhood, but definitely Henderson Mall and the mall, like the, I guess, larger Coquitlam City Centre Mall. I still don't know what it's called after all these years living here. Were really cool, important third spaces. Yeah, especially Henderson, where it felt like it was not only a third space for someone like me, especially a third space for our larger Chinese community, which we have a pretty big, large population of Chinese and Korean folks here. Yeah.
How did that feel growing up? Like growing up in a like majority white East Asian neighborhood or city even?
Yeah. I think Coquitlam especially, for me, imparted this feeling that because it was so multicultural, we were all growing up together, and so many of us had immigrant parents and diaspora parents, that it never really felt quite like there was one specific place that was carved out for me, or that like race was never really at the forefront of that thought. It sort of felt that we were all part of like a greater community.
Oh.
Yeah. there was definitely a little bit of tension every now and then.
Okay.
Like I can think of a couple of experiences where I'm like, oh, like parents exclusively being like, I don't want you at my house. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like it never felt like it was coming from other kids. And so it sort of felt like, okay, these parents are coming. And then also myself having parents who immigrated here, you recognize that they come here with certain ideas and specific contexts and much more homogenous cultures. And I just sort of grew up with this feeling of being really sympathetic to those types of misunderstandings, I guess. I always saw them as misunderstandings. Yeah.
That's a very mature jump, or like very empathetic takeaway to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own.
You're buttering me up.
Was there any time, I guess, like especially growing up when you're like figuring your identity, you're a teen, you've got a little more angst going on, where like that race stuff was a little rough?
You know, it was a weird time growing up. I think in like high school, 2016, I think being a minority, I never felt particularly attractive.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it quickly changed, I think, in like 2016 because like this advent of the internet, and then also like a very specific ethnically ambiguous look at the time online came to the forefront. And all of a sudden it felt like it didn't really matter what like the immediate in-person trends were. It felt much more important what like the online world said was attractive. Yeah.
Huh. I guess that kind of leads into like the ideas of like subcultures and I guess like finding your place or like your community.
For
How
sure.
did you find that for yourself?
How did I find my community?
Yeah.
So I think growing up, I always felt a bit like the weird kid, but I was
Okay.
very comfortable in that position.
Was that like your parents or like friends or like what?
I was a really big anime nerd before we saw this like boom in anime, like circa
Before
COVID.
it was like cool.
Yeah, these posers.
Yeah.
These posers. No. Before we like, yeah, and I was really comfortable and I think I had like a level of social awkwardness too. In 7th grade, I went into a program called the MACC class.
Okay.
And that was in Port Coquitlam. In Citadel, it was offered at 3 different schools. So Coquitlam, Citadel, and then also Hillcrest. They had the program at Hillcrest. I was attending Hillcrest. I was bullied out of Hillcrest. That was when the incident of like, oh, you can't come over to my house thing happened. I was like, this is... Maybe I'll just go hang out with these kids instead. And I found all these other like delightfully weird people. And then we went into high school, and a lot of them ended up being queer. And so I also ended up joining our LGBT club. And I actually was like president in 11th grade. I don't know if y'all knew that. Like I was co-president.
I didn't know that we had an LGBTQ club.
What? We did not do a good job of marketing ourselves.
What did you do?
What did we do? We existed around 2016, which was I think a really specific time for social rights and issues. I don't know if like you remember, but I remember at that point in time like queer discourse was just kind of becoming mainstream. And so we would go to classrooms and we would talk about like who we were and try and explain in a way that like our other classmates could understand. We would like attend planning classes.
How did I not? Was I not in one of these classes?
Are we in the same grade? Because I think
we-
it was mostly 10th grade classes that we'd go to.
I was in Coast.
So maybe that's why.
Whoa.
Maybe the
I was
Coast
gate
kids-
kept from the queer.
You were gate kept.
Also, that's so bold of you. Like, especially as a teen, to be like, guys, I'm gay. This is what it means.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, like, yes, it was honestly because I grew up in such a lucky area where it felt like, especially our school, Glen Eagle Secondary in Coquitlam was so... Who are these? I'm sorry, children.
They're having the
They're having a
time
good
of their
time.
life.
They're having a really good time.
This
Okay.
is their high school experience.
This is their high school. Oh, wait, that's cute. No, I'm just a hater. So, yeah, I was really lucky because in Coquitlam, it never felt that scary. And maybe that was just like me having blinders on and then me being enveloped in like this lovely warm community. But I remember first going in, like everyone in 9th grade was like, oh, I'm here in the LGBT club. I'm just supporting a friend. I'm just an ally. And everyone would say that before they eventually came out like the next year. And there were definitely a couple of kids that you could see were not that receptive. But for the most part, it really did feel like people were trying their best to make us feel welcome, especially teachers. Yeah, we were really lucky.
That is nice. I did notice like people had stickers on their classroom doors, even though like I don't think any teachers were like explicitly inclusive, but like there were like subtleties and like this was a safe space.
Yeah, very that.
Yeah.
There was definitely also other teachers who I think would never explicitly state their feelings, but like you could maybe intuit.
Yeah.
But even like there was some like more conservative social studies teachers that like made their views known that would still make you feel included and you could banter with. And yeah, I think that was a really unique experience growing up.
Did that extend beyond high school for you, like the sense of safety and comfort and like exploring your identity, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I grew up very online.
What does it mean to be chronically online?
Yeah. So I would spend a lot of my days online. Immediately after class, I would like go to my room, I would hole up, and I would just be on social media, blogging platforms, video watching platforms. I made online friends at that age, like at the young age of like 14 to like 17.
Ooh, be
I had
careful out there.
You know, it definitely got to a point where like it was just obvious that most of those people were in the exact same position as you were. So because so much of my growing up experience felt like it was removed from the reality of, I guess, Coquitlam, like the real life world, I never really felt like I was observing too much what other people were experiencing, how they felt about the world around me. Yeah.
Okay. Did that inform how you perceived Coquitlam then, I guess? Like, did it feel more small town or, like, boring because it didn't align with your online reality?
In some ways, yeah. I think a bit of, like, curiosity and wonder whenever there was events. There was sort of a feeling that, like, there were no spaces carved out for specific subcultures like there were online, or like you even saw in much bigger cities, even in Vancouver. It felt like Coquitlam was sort of primed to make events and have social gatherings around the fact that like we're all here. Yeah. As opposed to like you have a specific interest or a subculture.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. Okay, so like how do you feel about Coquitlam now?
How do I feel about Coquitlam now? I think I felt really normal about Coquitlam growing up. I'm a really big Coquitlam fan now. So I studied international studies, international development at my university. And I think it really contextualized just how lucky I am to be growing up here. It is, in my opinion, like the ideal balance between suburbia, there being like a downtown area, downtown core, being able to make your way around without needing a car, just like the beautiful scenery. There's so many trees. I also traveled down to like LA. Many times I have family down there, and there's no part about Coquitlam that looks as bad as LA. Sorry for the LA slander, but like genuinely, like the worst part of Coquitlam will never look like the best part of LA. And it just made me realize I was like, oh, this place is like beautiful and amazing, and usually filled with really nice people.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did you perceive it growing up then?
I don't really know if I had a concept of the fact that I was I never really thought about the fact that I was in Coquitlam. I think it was more like, oh, I'm in Canada, and that's like the weird part.
Whoa, okay.
You know, like because I had family in Germany, and then I also have family in LA. But it never felt like Coquitlam was its own special thing. It felt like going to Vancouver was its weird thing, and the Coquitlam was just the normal background scenery.
Ooh, okay. That's nice. I feel like in that sense, you kind of like center, not yourself, but like this is the main stage.
Coquitlam was the main stage. It was. Yeah.
Huh. I keep on like
Looking at.
Yeah,
I know
and
we are.
then
It's like school's coming out.
There's getting a little busy.
It's getting a little busy.
But I actually feel fine.
Yeah.
Do you feel fine?
I feel fine.
You don't
Do you
have
want
to
We
feel
can.
fine.
I genuinely have like such a bad sense of like other people's perceptions.
I mean, that's that's like a skill.
It's really solid in situations like this, but less handy in others.
I mean, I feel fine actually. I feel like
It's fine.
this in itself is like Coquitlam.
Do you mean it? You know what I mean? Is like it's
Like, we can
this,
do
Oh,
this?
sorry,
Oh, she cussed.
stuff like this happens, and like people will look, and then they're kind of like, whatever, who
Yeah.
cares? Like,
And
not
I
my
feel
business.
so safe and like weirdly comfortable doing this.
Right?
Yeah. Huh. Maybe Coquitlam's.
It's a place.
On our walk here, you said that you were a Coquitlam ride or die.
Yeah, I love this place.
How do you feel so deeply about Coquitlam and so passionate?
I think. Well, one, I have only ever lived in Coquitlam. I used to live in the Millardville area and then moved here to like, I don't know where it's
I don't know what you
called.
call this.
Yeah, just downtown Coquitlam area by the city hall.
I've never thought of this as downtown.
I don't
but-
know. Okay,
But that makes sense.
it's my terminology. And again, seeing other places, both like through travel, and also so much of my studies and my degree in university, thinking about international development and looking at like Coquitlam, and you know when people draw like a stereotypically perfect suburbia with like trees and houses, and there's like a couple of high rises, and that's just what Coquitlam is. Like they're just drawing that, in my opinion. Like I
This
go
is
to
the ideal.
I go to any other place in Vancouver, in the greater Vancouver area,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have this sort of tranquil, serene, safe feeling. Which like maybe it's not always the goal, but I think, I don't know, something about it is, it's just, it felt like the people who tried to make this place as good as possible living quality wise really succeeded.
I mean, this podcast has made me like think of so much more critically about Coquitlam. Growing up, like I was always just like, I gotta get out of here.
Really?
Like I need a
Why'd you feel that way?
escape is a strong word. Maybe it felt small town. I
Mm.
think I like projected certain things onto Coquitlam, even though they had nothing to do with. Like I think I just needed to leave for a bit, and now I'm growing like more comfortable, which is scaring me.
Yeah.
That, like I'm actually appreciating it.
Why is it scaring you?
Because I still want to leave, but more for growth. Like I think I just need a little change of scenery. I see myself coming back though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you mentioning like part of the reason why you dislike this place is because you felt like you projected a lot of things onto it. I've talked to a lot of my friends, and I think that sort of seems to be the agreed upon sentiment, is that there were uncomfortable things growing up that they experienced, and then this just happened to be the place that they experienced it.
Yeah.
I feel like I had such a uniquely positive
Yeah.
like growing up experience. Early 20s, totally different story.
Okay.
Very, very different feelings. But up until like 19, just blissfully going through the world, being very
beautiful.
cognizant that like this is not a normal way to experience life. Like at least at that
Yeah.
age. Yeah.
Okay, and how did it go downhill from there?
Oh, it was really bad. So, for an analogy, my parents got divorced when I was 4, and it always felt much better than the people who had their parents divorced at like 16, because I grew up experiencing divorced parents.
Yeah.
And it felt like I had the misfortune of realizing a lot of deeply unfortunate things about this world. at an age that was really like a little bit too late to be realizing that. And it all just sort of came at once. Not all of it was projected onto Coquitlam per se, but I definitely started having those feelings of like going into the mall and sort of looking at like you have all these big stores or all this consumerism. We're like Henderson. Part of one of the things I wanted to talk about Henderson, there used to be this like locally owned shop called Giftland. Love Giftland. Giftland went out of business, and it just felt like this symbol of. It felt like a symbol of decline, and specifically when it came to small businesses, people's ability to be self-sufficient and not overly reliant on, I guess, like a larger, more corporate entity. And that was really hard to come to terms with in the city that I love. And sort of looking around and being like, oh, this is so fortunate. You know, it's perfect suburbia. Why can't everywhere be like this?
Yeah.
And again, studying international development, that was a really strong feeling I had. So I had some appreciation for Coquitlam, but it also, it made me realize that I had it a little bit too good. Yeah.
How did you like work through that and process that?
So a lot of these realizations happened right when COVID was happening.
Okay.
Which was, I think, not the best time to have like a ton of horrible realizations about the world. And a lot of it was solo walks, like just 2-hour-long walks throughout the suburbs. It's really nice that it's hilly around here. I feel like you get like a good exercise in.
It's so optimistic. I have like, I'm like, oh, I hate that it's hilly. I can't walk anywhere. But like, if it is, I guess, just like for leisure, it is nice to have variation. But if I like need to get anywhere, like I live on Westwood Plateau, so anywhere, it's just like I have to walk an hour down a hill. And if I have to walk an hour down a hill, I have to walk an hour up a hill.
Yeah, you have the misfortune of living on Westwood Plateau. I had this really nice mix of like, I was only one sort of like street up the hill.
Ooh.
And so going down the hill to like the main like mall and everything was like not that far away, but I also had the option of walking uphill, which was really good to just focus on one thing.
Your cardio.
The cardio and yeah, honestly a lot of it was very slowly, bit by bit, building myself back up after everything was torn down. Yeah.
Okay. And where are you at now in this journey?
Lately, I've been thinking about like true and harmful thoughts and true and helpful thoughts.
Ooh.
And I think before I was sort of seduced by the allure of true and harmful thoughts, like things that felt true and really impactful, but left me really sad about the world.
Okay.
And now I feel like I'm at a place where I can have the more true and helpful thoughts. Like, oh, Coquitlam is beautiful. I love this place. I would like other places to be like this. How do I make other places like this? And that sort of helped me get through feelings of disillusionment.
So like with the true and harmful thoughts, are you like turning that on its head, or are you like just focusing on the true and helpful things? Because I feel like I didn't even think about this. I feel like I'm struggling with the true and harmful thoughts a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of not turning them on their head because they're true.
Yeah.
So you can't like
Just flip it.
yeah, that's what I was trying to do for a long time. I was trying to like logic my way out of them,
Yeah.
and you can't because it's true. Like
yeah.
it's true that there's a lot of really bad things happening.
Yeah.
But the best you can do is try and like the human mind can only take so much, but the human mind also can only focus on so much. At least that's how I feel. I don't know. Maybe you're a genius. And yeah, it's been shifting the focus.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that like very cognizant of you, or like that was just it just like happened?
That was, I mean, I guess a bit of both. I think this framing happened when I looked back at like how I dealt with this stuff. But I think at the time it was a lot of like me working through like imagining where my place was in the world. I think Coquitlam felt very small for me. And I always sort of imagined my life as very small. And then I went to university and I was sort of shown this whole new world of like people who had come from all sorts of places and had all types of life experiences. And sorry, I don't know where I was going with that train of thought. Felt like I was going somewhere, but I don't remember where I was going.
I don't even remember the question. Oh, like how you got there.
How I got to, the mindset. Yeah. So Coquitlam felt small, and I think just being exposed to more ideas, it's sort of like, for an analogy, it felt like I had no antibodies. And sort of like meeting new people almost felt like this vaccine that I could take, where I was like, oh, now I'm like introduced to all these new ways of perceiving the world that like my international friends like have. And they sort of like very slowly inoculated me through like a lot of conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. That's nice. I guess like this is such a, we're going off somewhere else now. Okay. High school.
Yes.
Actually, no, we're not even going to go
Hell
there.
no. Heck no.
Childhood. How was that?
How was childhood?
Yeah.
Childhood was awesome.
That's wonderful.
I had a really good childhood. I had parents from different parts of the world. My mom's from Germany, my dad's from Ethiopia. And they had the wonderful task of like deciding like how much of their own culture they should be raising me with. They didn't really have much of a precedent going in to raising kids in Canada. So that was interesting. But nonetheless, it was just a really nice, welcoming, multicultural experience. I think one of the things I really appreciated, and I feel this felt unique. My mother was raised in Germany in the 80s, where children had a lot of independence. So it was the type of situation where like I would go walk my dog at like nighttime at like 7 years old, like around the block. I lived at that point at Millardville. There was a gang. I don't know. There's a gang institution. I don't know. I don't know if you name
it. Is that brand?
They're not branded. So there was a Hell's Angels that was right beside a convenience store that you'd have to like often walk past. And even then, like as a child, you just didn't feel that scared because you trusted that nothing bad would happen.
How do you feel about that now?
How I feel about that now? I mean,
nothing bad happened.
Nothing bad happened. I think because nothing bad ever happened to me growing up, I always felt fine. It always felt like there was more concern about stranger danger from other people. And in fact, like a couple of times, especially with my dad, my parents are divorced. So my dad would often just like be hanging out with like me and my brother and our kids, and he's a lot darker than me and my brother. So he doesn't fully look exactly like us. And there'd definitely be a couple of times where people would be worried that he was not my father and that he was taking us. So outside of a couple of uncomfortable experiences there, it was like mostly fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about teenage? What about high school?
Teenage, high school.
This is also like, I actually don't know Zaena very well.
Yeah, you don't know me very well.
I'm just learning.
We had an art class together.
Yeah, that's it. And we didn't even really interact.
No, we didn't.
We sat at like
you
different
always
tables.
made really cool collages, though.
Oh, thank you.
I remember
don't remember
that.
my collage work.
You always had a really, really good eye for design. I remember that specifically about you. Yeah.
Thank you. I ended up going into that.
This guy. Predictable. Sorry about my high school experience. What about my high school experience?
I guess what it was like for you, socially, like finding yourself. I guess especially sort of what a part of this podcast is about is like navigating your 20s. And so like, especially in high school, the expectation to go to post-secondary, and like, what does that look like? If you did or didn't do that, do you really know what you want to do when you're like 17, 18? And how does that unfold now?
Okay, so totally
what was the
small
big plan?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when I think about, I guess, how I imagined my future life when I was in high school, is that sort of where you want to?
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. That's a lot easier.
Yeah. I don't know. So imagining myself, I guess, when I was older, I was always a really future-oriented person.
Okay.
And so I was also someone who cared a lot about my academics. And art always felt like this thing that I was doing on the side. And I was good at it, and my parents wanted me to do it, like, as a hobby.
You were very good at it.
Stop it. Stop it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it never felt like a career option for me. My parents actually were really loosey-goosey about what I wanted to do with my life. I just really, really, really desperately needed to impress them. And, like, also I felt like I needed to prove myself to other people. So I cared a lot about my grades and my academic achievements. I never knew what I wanted to do. I always flipped through different things.
Okay.
And going into law always was just kind of like, okay, if I haven't decided by this specific age what I want to do, I guess I'll just do this.
Okay. So it was like a backup.
It was always kind of that. It was always kind of like every couple of weeks I would switch what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And that kind of still is the case. And that was really, really bad.
Why was that bad?
I both had this idea that I needed to have a really specific plan to achieve success. And at the same time, I wanted to do a million things. And I couldn't ever imagine myself committing my entire life to one specific thing.
Okay, yes, I feel 100%. I'm not doing one thing for the rest of my life.
No, absolutely not. When I got to university, I chose philosophy because I knew it'd be really helpful for going into law school. And then I also chose international development because I knew it was a really flexible degree. And that was really, really bad because I was not, mentally equipped to handle what would happen in the world of international development, and just how harsh some of the truths were that I would learn from there. And also, I wasn't that interested. But I was trying to, like, maximize my options. And then I also, around 2021, just fell into this very deep hole of, like, what does it mean to have a good life? What does it mean to be fulfilled when you look back? And honestly, some of just me being really, really, really online, I think wasn't great for me imagining what my optimal life could be because, of course, everything was glamorized. And so I've never felt satisfied with what I could see myself doing because I felt like I needed to do all these, like, glamorized things.
What was your conclusion with that, I guess? Like, what was your takeaway? In terms of, like, your fulfilling life or, like, the ideal or what you're working towards?
Yeah. I think I took a couple conclusions. One is being a lot more content with having a small life, which was sort of where I started when I was younger. And then also knowing that I could change what I was doing in the future. And that I would much rather kind of get all the exhausting, energy sucking endeavors out of my way while I was young and do whatever I feel like doing when I'm, like, 45.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the plan right now. And I'm still, of course, like, on shaky ground. I'm taking a gap year right now just to also, like, get that art bug out of me. And hopefully go to law school.
Okay.
Just because I also really do enjoy law. I really do enjoy, like, looking at pedantic contracts and arguments.
That is, you have quite a unique personality there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does this gap year look like for you now? And what is this creative bug? I knew you as an artist, and it is, I don't want to say weird or sad.
No, you can say what's on your mind, Josh.
Okay, I don't think it's that, but you're so talented. And, like, I do also remember you talking about wanting to go into law. So, this is through my very limited lens of who I knew Zaena to be.
Yeah.
Like, so I knew the art thing would have to die down for law. But I guess for me, it was just like a very prominent aspect of who you were.
I just wrote the law school admissions test. I spent all the time studying for it. So that was part of the gap year.
Okay.
And then I also went to LA, did a road trip with some friends.
Aww.
Yeah. And now I do want to go back into painting. I used to be really obsessive with having this like specific technical skill, and I wanted to sort of move more into doing abstract work because I think I never fully gave it its flowers when I was in high school. And also, so cringe, but I really, really want to do video essays. I was actually working on it before you guys came in.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wait, you so should. Wait, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm so excited to see that.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think there's enough like content online. So like my perception of like online content has changed since I first made this plan. And so now I'm doing it and I'm like, I'm just gonna be like another person who's like offering slop to people. But
do you consider your creative practice as like creating for like an audience or like for other people?
I think I always did a little bit. And I want this to be for myself. But yeah, those are really pointed question, Josh.
What is the but?
Yeah, on one hand I want to do what I like to do. I think a part of my personality has always been like I'm weird and I'm in your face and I need you to know that.
Okay.
And so a part of me is like, is this just performative? Is it just like I'm doing it for other people, but it's like to kind of
it is also for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll find out, I guess.
You'll find out.
Okay, something I missed. Sorry, now we're just gonna jump around this episode. We might not even be on this frog later in this episode. Which I missed in your childhood was growing up around Riverview Hospital.
Yeah.
What was that? I don't know many people who have a lot of interaction with those grounds, I guess, even, or that space.
So, I guess to give some like context.
Yeah, context would be good.
So I didn't live near Riverview Hospital, but my mother was one of the social workers who worked in Riverview Hospital. And I was put in the daycare there. And I also went to Riverview Park Elementary School. And so the daycare was literally on the grounds. In fact, we were in an old hospital for the first few years, and then we actually ended up moving like down the road because the hospital ended up getting filled again with people. Ooh, that's some funky driving.
Spicy intersection.
So the hospital was, filled back up with people. The grounds were always kind of falling apart and decrepit.
The character.
It had a lot of, it had so much character that it was also usually used for filming. So there was a lot of like horror movies filmed around that area. And usually you didn't really see that many people wandering around. But my mom was part of the last group of social workers and like operational hospitals that were there. And she was pretty devastated when it was shut down. From my understanding, it seemed really important for a lot of people. And from my understanding, I don't really know if there was much of a plan for the people who were kicked out. A lot of them, from what I heard, ended up on the streets. And so, it was pretty devastating to see that, like growing up. But I remember the grounds as always being like a really fun place. Like through a child's eyes, like it was just a ton of old abandoned buildings.
Yeah.
So like,
and it's not scary yet because you're a kid.
You're a kid, and so you're like, oh, can you go hide in them? And like your daycare teacher's like, don't do that. That was fun.
Oh, it's nice. Before this episode, I looked into it, like the history of it, and also Henderson. And there's so much history of those grounds. Like it began in like 1904, 1912 or something, the development of it. And it went through so many changes. So it was cool that you got to experience a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Coquitlam has some history.
Coquitlam has history, contrary to popular belief. One time I saw like a post from this like prominent statistician on Twitter from Vancouver, and he was like, "Who even goes to Coquitlam? Like, I've never been to Coquitlam," and like all these like replies being like, "I've never had a reason to go to Coquitlam," and I'm like, "You honestly stay out.
Don't come here.
Stay out, yeah." The point of the podcast. We now have like the Lafarge Lake lights, which I think was the Coquitlam city's
people
attempt.
Come here for that.
Yeah. It's not that good. It's kind of overrated in my opinion.
It's free.
If I have to be a hater, it is that.
On Coquitlam? You hate Lafarge lights?
Just the lights at Lafarge are, in my opinion, listen, I have so much respect to the city. I
love that it's free.
Love that it's free.
Thank you, Coquitlam.
Love the effort.
Yeah.
It's always so crowded, and some of the lights are just gauche. I'm sorry. They're not that good. Is that... We can cut it out.
I don't know.
They're not good. I don't like them. I don't like them. I'm sorry. I love everything else about this place. The frog is not gauche. Like, they have good
hate to Coquitlam.
No hate to Coquitlam. I know you people put so much work
There's so
and
much
time
work.
and money.
There's Wi-Fi at Lafarge.
There's Wi-Fi. Like, there's so many things that they hit. It's just not the Lafarge lights. You cut that out if you want to keep your podcast more positive.
Well, no, that paints a poor picture if we cut out all the bad stuff.
I think it paints a great picture.
Oh, well, it paints a great picture.
Perhaps not true, yeah.
I guess, like, what are your plans as of now?
Plans as of now?
In life.
In life?
Law. You said law, but originally you were like, that was kind of the backup, kind of, it's just what you do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I bounced around a lot.
Yeah.
When I thought about my idealized life. I think law was sort of always what I would end up coming back to. So for now...
Yeah, if you find contracts really interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I think just... I don't know. Like the fact that we have like so much history that goes into why we have certain social rules, like the idea of managing a society and like what is acceptable and not acceptable. I think a lot... I mean, this has been a theme throughout the podcast, but I care a lot about the online Wild West that exists right now. And there's been some attempts to regulate it. I'm sure if you notice, if you go on any website, you have to agree to cookies. Yeah, and like that's a new thing that has happened because of legislation. So it's really cool and exciting stuff. I just think that there's a lot more that needs to be done. Okay. And so ideal dream world would be someone who would support with regulating that. If not, I don't know, I'll just do prenuptial contracts for couples. Who knows?
That's a fun dream.
Yeah. I like the idea.
That's so niche, too.
I love the idea of, like, a really, like, uncomfortable, like, newlywed couple. They don't know if, like, this is for them, but, like, they were advised by their parents to get this done. And, like, you welcome them and you, like, give them some tea. They're paying you too much money because that's how much money you need to have a prenuptial contract. I don't know, like, walking through that process, being like, don't even worry about it, darling, I got you.
That's the dream. In Coquitlam, too.
Well, I might have to outsource to Vancouver.
Ooh, okay.
Although honestly, looking at the prices of housing, those people might need some prenuptial contracts. Let me tell you. Anyways.
So no matter what you do, you're gonna live up your dream. I think that's my takeaway.
You mean that, Josh Louie? That means the world's coming from you. Swag.
I guess there really is no way to like. So class inequality.
So class inequality. I think it's part of like a broader trend of like social services in general being cut back, people moving in here with a lot of money, land being really expensive in the Lower Mainland. I think that
is this Lower Mainland in general or specific to the Tri-Cities that you're talking about right now? I
think right now, Lower Mainland. But when I look at, like, the Tri-Cities, like, Coquitlam never felt out of reach when my parents first bought a home here. And it very much feels out of reach now, especially if I want to use my law degree for noble causes instead of money-making causes. And it's really scary. And I think about a lot of the people who were raised in Coquitlam, such as myself, who might not have the opportunity to continue living here and might feel like they're pushed out of the city. And there's so many things that I felt were really important here growing up that I have such a strong attachment to, and all these communities. Yeah, it would just be a shame. So yeah, I guess like that's my main feeling is like the housing situation, but isn't that everywhere in the Lower Mainland?
That is everywhere. But I guess especially like I don't know, like a suburb is supposed to be more affordable, or like like the city's expensive, but this is like where the people can go if they need to.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's getting pushed further and further out. So we'll see if we can stay here.
Yeah. Do you want that to be the last note? Will you edit them together out of order?
Do you see yourself in Coquitlam in the future?
In the future? Yeah. I would really like to maybe spend like a year or two of my life living out of Coquitlam.
Okay. Where is out of Coquitlam? Like Vancouver?
I mean, Vancouver, for sure. But maybe somewhere much more radically different. Maybe like somewhere in Europe, Germany. I have family ties there. I feel like Coquitlam is... I really want to come back here when I'm 50, especially, and like be like, I grew up here, like these are my roots.
I think so too. I think I would want that.
And like go and explore other places and come back because it's like it's home.
It's
calling.
home. Would you consider Coquitlam your hometown?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you have like a fond memory of Coquitlam, or like memory of significance? Big question. Sure, there's a lot of memories.
I mean, it's weird because like there's... I think one thing that felt very Coquitlam to me growing up was there was this little corner store that was owned and operated by this, I think, Chinese couple, and they had a child who would like sit in the corner and watch TV in the store. And I was like 6 or 7, and my mom would give me some money, and it would be like a 5-minute walk away on this like really big, busy road, Mariner, I think, and it just like the interactions I had with them, that type of like multiculturalness, but also it feeling like you were like those differences never mattered, because we were both part of this place.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be big. It didn't have to be spectacular. It just had to be connected. That felt very quintessential Coquitlam to me. Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it. That does feel very Coquitlam.
Yeah.
It's small, it's quaint, but that is what it is, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I feel like that's a great place to end things. Well, thank you so much for your time, Zaena.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. Today's episode featured Zaena. Special thanks to Sebi Sarani. Music composed by Rachel Jang. Produced with the support of TELUS STORYHIVE. I'm Joshua Louie, and this is The Burbs.